Okay, so this is Jarvisbiker. Over the weekend we found out that the water pump was failing on the GL1800. So I've got it apart, down, got the gas tank out. I haven't removed the water pump yet, but I wanted to videotape everything. The parts that you'll need when you go to change out the water pump on a GL1800 Honda Goldwing. Number one thing you're going to need, a wooden handle. I used a steel wire brush handle. It seemed to work the best for me. You'll also need a mirror, an extendable mirror that you can look in around and see what's going on. You'll need a Phillips screwdriver. You'll need a short, small, very rounded edge pry bar. Nothing too sharp. Two 6-inch socket extensions, 3/8 drive. A 3/8 drive flex head ratchet. A 1/4 inch flex head ratchet. A 10mm and an 8mm socket for that 1/4 inch. A set of metric Allen wrench sockets, preferably a 6 and an 8mm. I used this little flat wrench to align the water pump so that it fit back into the crankcase properly. Also, 1 or 2 tire spoons, and also a quality set of metric sockets, preferably 6-point. And then my regular metric junk tool bag as well, with all my stuff in it, just in case. So those are the main things that you're going to need. You'll need this to remove that bottom rad hose off the water pump. You'll need these to fit through from inside where the battery box was in to get at the bolts to loosen them. You'll also need this one to put it back in. It's very helpful. 1/4 inch extension, 6-inch, is also required. Don't know why it's not out here. There it is. So you're going to need that as well. Blue Loctite. I don't use red on most anything unless it's really super high vibration. I've never had a problem with this stuff not doing the job. So blue. Then you got a chance of getting it apart again someday if you need to. So that's it, kids. That's the whole lineup of whatever you're going to need to take that water pump off. The other thing that you're going to need is a shit ton of patience. It's hard to get at. The pieces are very, very close together. You got to be really careful that you don't break anything. Getting the fuel tank out, you'll need some type of a fuel pump apparatus, or run it right empty if that's possible before you disassemble the bike. But in my case, I just filled the tank up, so I had to purchase a small pump to transfer it into a big can and get the fuel empty. You will not lift that tank out full. You will not be able to do it because you have to lift it out partially with your fingertips, and you just won't have enough strength to do it. There's just no way. So basically, when you lift out the gas tank, you lift up the front of the tank and you bring it up until it is snug, and then you roll it out of the frame. You have to give it a good grab and pull up on it, and it'll pop out of the frame. So remember all that. All right, let's go on with the show. Bye. Okay, so it attaches right there, and if you can see that clamp right there, that hold down, this pack of wires, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them, sits on top of this plastic, and the bolt goes down through, grounds this loop to the frame below. According to the resident auto mechanic next door, he said that could be so that the brake line never gets grounded. So that's what we're thinking. So here's the water pump. So this hose, and there's 1, 2, and 3. There's another third bolt down in the bottom there. Get the screen going here. Way down in there, there's another bolt. So once this tank's out, it's pretty damn easy to get in here. Now I've washed this, which hadn't been done in 15 years, and it was absolutely filthy up in here, but now it's all nice and clean. So rear shock, if you need to get that out, this is where you gotta come. We undid this bracket here, but couldn't remove it. So basically it just got slid back a little bit, and we'll have to put it back in once the tank's in. So that's it. Pretty simple. Main ground, 4 wires. Everything looks good. So I'm going to put some dielectric grease on it, put it back together. And we'll just know that we're going to need an alternator. Alright, that's it for now. Okay, so we've taken out the alternator. Just to make it better for getting in there. I'm going to order a new one because of the alternator whine. Now it's probably the diodes are messed up in it, so I'm going to try to get one rushed in so I can put it in before I put the gas tank on. So I did have to undo this bracket. There's 2 little short guys. These 2 little guys go in there, hold that in. So I didn't undo it. And this ground wire goes right there on that top hole with this bolt, and it's got Loctite on it, so they were tight, big time tight. So I'm thinking we only got 2 bolts, so I'm going to try to move it. So I'll have to shut you off for a minute till I try to move it. Bye bye. Okay, so you got 1 hose here, goes on this one right here, this big one goes right there, this one, these 2 are easy to get, this one down in here, you see the shiny part? Okay, so what I did was I put the wire brush handle in like that to give me something, and a nice dull pry bar, and I just started working the hose until it came off, and then I turned it sideways and it popped right off nice and easy. Bob's your uncle on that one. So I got 2 of the bolts out of the water pump, the 3rd back bottom one. That's why I wanted this hose off, so that I could get down in there with the, and you're gonna need, the major thing you're gonna need is a deep 10 mil socket. Yeah, I know you're gonna have trouble finding it, but anyway, and a 1/4 inch flex head ratchet, deep socket. And I can't do it by holding the camera and holding the wrench, so we'll turn it off. I'll take out the bolt, and then the water pump should come right out. Alright, bye. Okay, so I got that 3rd bolt out, and I just gave it a little wiggle and it popped right out. So here's the water pump. And I'm just looking to see what's holding me up. Alright, it's going to take 2 hands. I got to get some stuff out of the way. So I'm going to set the camera down. Right about like that. The stinking ground wires. There she be. Ugly. Yep. There's the bottom one, so it's on the far side. Nice and clean. And kind of sticky. Probably spinning. It probably wasn't okay, you can see where it was leaking. So it was starting to weep. So that's all wet. Ooh. This thing just doesn't know when to quit. Very light. Feels like nothing. Yeah. Water pump's out, boys. So I'm going to put all the starter bolt stuff back on. There's no need to touch the starter at all. Alternator, yes. But starter, no. So you got to take the fuel tank out though. Alright. Bye. Well, that's pretty lame. It's just a little tin plate with an O-ring that seals that whole thing. Like that's something wanting to fail. Didn't though. This is the thermostat. So everything looks really good. Impeller is not worn at all. So that's good. Pretty lame looking impeller, but does the trick, I guess. Right, we'll just leave that there like that. We're all set. We're just waiting for parts. I'm gonna put the starter stuff back together. Bye for now. Okay, we're back. So I checked to see where the alignment of the slot that the water pump fits into. And I took this flat wrench and I stuck it in the hole, and I found it that was to be straight up and down. So I set the pump to that straight up and down, and I just moved everything out of the way so I could get a clear shot, and it dropped right in. So we're doing up the bolts now. So we're going to start on the bottom one. I'm just going to tighten it a little bit, and then I'm going to go to the two top ones and tighten them a little bit, and then we'll torque it. So I'll be back when I have hands. Bye. Okay, so there's no way to get a torque wrench down in there to torque these clamps and these bolts, so I just did them with the little 1/4 inch hexy one, and I put a little blue Loctite on the water pump bolts. Now I've done up the clamps with a screwdriver. These clamps are very high quality, so don't change them out for some other cheap hardware store stuff. Keep these originals or buy new, which was what I did. Okay, I've snugged up all the clamps. I've got everything routed. Fuel line 1, fuel line 2, 3. There's those 3 out of the way. I'll slip that under there just so it's held back. Let's keep this back. So there's 1, 2, 3. The drain line, pressure line, back to tank. Water pump's in, starter's done back up, taped up the joint, cleaned the ground. There's your ground, your main ground right there. That's all done. Alright, everything's cleaned up underneath here. I'm not even going to worry about the air filter, it was just done last winter. Alright, so we kind of got everything pulled out of the way. I'm going to tape things back a little bit, just so that it's out of the way when I go to put the tank back in. And then I'll prep the tank and we'll slide her in. I think we're good to go. This bracket, I'm actually going to put the bolts in it first. And the rectifier box is right here. You see that wiggling down in there? That's the rectifier. I'm going to do that back up onto that bracket now. I should never have done that. I shouldn't have believed that guy when he was talking about it. Didn't do us any good. Anyway, be back in a minute. So there's these four little, takes an 8mm socket, and they'll fasten this tray back in under the battery box. I'm going to do that up now. So that's the next thing to go in. We'll be back. We've got the bracket back in. We've got the rectifier bolted to it. Everything's back in place there. One thing to watch, set this down for a second. One thing to watch, your fender tab fits into this bracket. Make sure that's in. It'll give you grief if you don't make sure it's in. Now on the back of your fuse panel, there's this thing, and I'm going to have to get a look at it with two hands. So we're going to have to come back to that. But let's put the alternator in first. So make sure everything's clean in there. You got your wires tucked back out of the way. Everything's clear for you to make a clean shot at it. Alright, so I'll put this down and I'll put it in. So it goes backwards in and then goes in. Alright, so we've got it sitting in fairly in place. Now we just have to tip it and work its way in, making sure that the spline lines up. It's pretty free moving, so I have to put the hands down again, so you'll have to wait. Back in a minute. Okay, so right now it's almost in place. O-ring and everything, spline's lined up. So we're just going to lift it a little bit and we're going to push it. I use the wooden handle of my wire brush to do it. There it goes. Popped in pretty easy. So now we have to put the 3 bolts back in. There's no Loctite on these that I can see of any kind, so I'm not going to use any. Okay, number 1 is in. Okay, now if we take this, we need the spoons. Okay, so we're going to use this little apparatus. And we're going to grab the bolt like that. In fact, we're going to flip it over this way. Okay, there's a brake line of some type there in the way. Try it from the other direction. Right, you can get it easier from up here. You just have to push one rad hose out of the way. There we go. Bolt number 2 is started. That's the hard one. Let's see if we can get this one. One of my tire spoons. There it is. Okay, we got the bolt started. It's just going to be flat to flat to flat with the wrench to get it all done. So I won't bore you with the details, but all 3 bolts are in. We'll do up this and plug in the plug, and that'll be it for that. And then it's gas tank after that. Alright, talk to you in a bit. Okay, make sure that you lube the O-ring on this fitting before you put it back in. 8mm wrench is required. It's in plastic, so don't get carried away. Torque. Torque. That's it. This plug has to go through here. Plugs in that snap. This line here, which is been taped to behave. Gorilla tape. Massively good. Okay, I'm looking for... Okay, so we've gotten everything back together. The alternator's back in. Gas tank needs to be tipped up and slid back in, and then a good sharp push and it'll pop down in. Get it all lined up and put up all the fittings. Hook it all back up. Just take your time. You've got a manual. That's the best way. You can use this video for a resource. To get the tank out, there's a couple of them on YouTube already, so I didn't bother with that because they were sufficient enough to get you where you are. You do not need to take out the starter. You don't even have to touch it. Only that bracket that holds the 2 cables for your reverse. Those are the only 2 that need to be touched. Other than that, it's not required. Yeah, just get the proper tools. Use that wooden handle, even just cut a little stick with your table saw and make something just to make it so it's a little easier on the parts in there. Make sure you tighten everything back up the way it was, and you should be good to go. And always message me in the videos, and I do keep an eye on those, so I will reply if you need some help. All right. This is Jarvisbiker saying good luck, and I hope you have as much success as I did. Oh, and the alternator plug, make sure it does click. I didn't, and it stranded me. Princess had to come and save me. All in all good. Bike's running fine. Bye.